Hi, I'm Joe, and this is the Decahedron RPG Podcast. Hi everyone, this is Joe. So this was originally going to be an episode about advantages and disadvantages in Lucky 7, but two things happened. I did some traveling for the holiday weekend, just went home to Rhode Island. That means I didn't get to record, but I was thinking ahead and I recorded the week before, but I didn't like the way that came out. And so my thought was I would have time today to re-record this, but that didn't happen. So instead, this is going to turn into a feedback episode, a mail call, if you will. Before I get into the main body of the mail call, I do want to remind everyone that we have a giveaway happening. And wherever you are in the world, feel free to enter. And so far, we only have one entry. And that means that if nobody else enters, it's 100% chance that Jason is going to win. And I'm not saying we have to rally against Jason by any means, but a contest is only fun if it's contested. So go ahead, send in your entries. And again, the contest is, a few weeks ago, I was hit with sudden inspiration and I wrote this real quick little beer and pretzels type RPG called Shirts and Skirts. And I want you to tell me, based on that name and the hints I've been given, what you think Shirts and Skirts is about. And on December 16th, Daniel and I are going to meet and we're going to go over the game. I'm going to present what it is, but we're also going to play the entries and I'm going to give something away, but I can't tell you what it is because that will give away the answer, right? And there's no fun in that. So I have been giving some hints, and so my thought was, if everyone told me what they thought their answers were, and then when they hear the next hint, if that changes the answer, that might be a little fun. But again, the only entry we have so far is Jason, but Jason has been changing his answer. So let me give you a sneak preview. Jason just sent this in this week.
Hey Joe, Jason here. Just listened to the review we did for Tunnel Quest, and I wanted to call back in for your contest. I know before I said musicals, but listen to that second clue. I wonder if it's not like old TV variety shows. The thing most modern listeners would be familiar with would be something like the Carol Burnett show, right? So I think I'm going to change my guess to that, although I kind of loathe to change my guess. But I'm going to change my guess to TV variety shows. Let's see how that works out for me.
Hey, Jason, don't be too loath to change your guess because you can always change it back up until December 15th. That's when the last day I'm taking entries. So let's see if this week's clue is going to change your mind. And here is this week's clue.
Man, Private, you lost? You knucklehead, you lost?
No, sir. I was looking for the...
When you came to Marine Corps, you were taught the position of attention. You assume it! You're also taught the only three words you need to have. Sir, yes, sir, no, sir.
Yes, sir.
I can't hear you.
Yes, sir.
You lost, boy. What?
Yes, sir.
What outfit you looking for?
Alpha Company, sir. 1st Battalion, sir.
Stand in the bus middle of it, boy. What's your business with Alpha first?
I had 3 weeks training, sir. Then I was sent to the hospital, sir.
It's matter to go and got too rough. Made little boy sick, huh?
No, sir, that's not right, sir. I had the measles, sir.
What's your name, Private?
Rice, W.T., sir.
All right, Rice, W.T. I'm gonna be watching you real close. You won't have to break any rules. All you have to do is bend them. I'll ride your back so hard you wish you'd joined the Navy. Now you suck in that big fat gut, you knucklehead. Let's pull that chin in. Pull it in. Pull it in. Get that chin down.
All right. So, Jason and everybody else, did that clue help you? Did it confuse you even more? Yeah. So when I do the giveaway episode with Daniel, I'm going to go over what each of these clues were and how they fit into everything. So that's the clue. Again, the name of the game is Shirts and Skirts. And all I'm doing is looking for you to tell me what you think it is about. And right or wrong, you are entered into the contest. So, Jason, thank you much for your first entry and for your modification. Everybody else, join in the fun. Join in with Jason. And, you get a chance to win something. And I think it's something cool. Yeah. All right. With that said, let's get on to Mail Call.
Mail Call from the United States of America.
Hey Joe, Riley here, first time caller. I've just made my way through most of your backlog and finally caught up. Really enjoyed the OSR October content you put out, so thank you for that. Inspired some thinking, so I thought I'd pop in and share on what I'd call core classes. You said that the fighter, cleric, and magic user are enough. Personally, I think that removing the cleric and potentially adding what I'd call the expert to that list is the better grouping of core classes. So what happens to the cleric? Simply moving the cleric spell list to the magic user as light magic, and the existing magic user spell list becomes dark magic. Of course, you could add the illusionist and druid or any of the other magic classes to those spell lists as you do that. And then a priest or your cleric magic user would just be a magic user that casts spells from the light magic list, and a paladin would just be a fighter priest multiclass. Now the expert is simply any character that has skills above the standard. So, and I'd intend this to mostly be used in multiclass. For example, a thief could be a fighter expert multiclass, got skills above regular adventurer for urban and dungeon. A ranger would be the same thing, but for the interested to hear your thoughts on that. Next up, traveler-inspired character creation. Really great. I found myself creating a story for James's cleric as you went. So I agree with not having a Bane on the first go around and not rolling to see if you get your class choice. I think a cool addition, if you wanted to roll to see if you get in to mimic the traveler mechanic, would be to include organization to each class. So you would roll to get into them instead. So for example, a fighter, you could join the local military or the palace guard, a mercenary company, a thieves guild as a thug, and each of those would have different chances and effects on the subsequent. I think that'd be a great way to tie characters to a setting or a world. You need to customize that for each game. Either way, love to see if you published or shared your current work. Keep up the episodes and looking forward to the next one. Bye.
Well, hey, Riley, thanks for that call. Good hearing from you for a first-time caller. Awesome. I love hearing first-time callers. And you said you worked your way through the backlog. That's dedication. Although, when I find a new podcast, I usually do that too. So, yeah, thanks for that. Removing the cleric. Yeah, it's funny that you say that. Not only do you think that's a brilliant idea, Ken St. Andre thought that was a brilliant idea way back in 1975 when he made Tunnels and Trolls. And that's why Tunnels and Trolls only has the fighter and the magic user, just no clerics at all. It also has another class called Rogue, which isn't quite your expert. But yeah, the thing you said about combining the two classes as one, making it light and dark magic, I have toyed with that idea myself, although ironically I was going to combine them under the cleric umbrella instead of the magic user umbrella. But it was going to be, instead of light or dark, I was using white magic and black magic. But yeah, same thing. I guess great minds think alike. Your expert class, I like your expert class. So when you first said it, I was like, oh, this is going to be like the rogue in Tunnels and Trolls, but it's not. It's a little bit like the thief in 3E, only in that, that's where it's the class that gets a lot of skill points and you can put them wherever. Isn't there something a little bit like that in D20 Modern? I'm not sure. But anyway, I do like the idea. I thought that was great. Thank you for liking the Traveler character generation method for D&D. No, so the other thing I have all in one place, the age-based stat rolls, but I don't yet have a blog post for the Traveler character creation. It's on my list to do, but I am still developing that adventure for the Tunnels and Trolls one for James, Jason, and Daniel, and the Traveler itself campaign, not campaign, adventure for Heather, Keith, and James. And then I talked a little bit about shirts and skirts. And so I'm actually writing an adventure for shirts and skirts, because what I would really love to do is I would love to find some people that will play it and let me record it as like a little one-shot actual play and put that on the podcast. And that also works for play testing shirts and skirts. The other thing you said, about tying it into an organization, like a certain mercenary group or the city guard or whatever. The only reason I am opposed to that, let's say, though, the reason I wouldn't write that up in my write-up for it is because then that is taking my thoughts and imposing them on the GM's game world. Where if I just have it wide open, fighter, magic user, cleric, it's easier for GMs to take that and add it to their campaign any way they want. They can either leave it very generic, just the way I have it, or they can add in those details to fit their world, like you were talking about. But yeah, awesome call there, Riley. Thank you very much. It was great hearing from you. I hope to hear from you again in the future.
Hey, Jason again. So on episode 102, at the end, I do owe you some research. Sorry, I got busy. Haven't done it. Spider Climb, from a brief look, does look like it's probably an AD&D spell, so you're correct there. If we're limiting to OD&D and and Greyhawk, then probably you've caught most of them. But maybe I'll work through other editions and make lists for you. I have not got around to looking up what the last name of the Jose who owns the Audio Dungeon Discord is. He was also, of course, on the Hex Talk podcast with Jason Hobbs and somebody else who I'm forgetting at the moment. So I will hastily hang up and pretend I didn't say that, because I don't like forgetting people's names.
Hey, Jason. Thanks for that call. As for owing me a call, I was being very tongue-in-cheek. Nobody owes me anything. I always appreciate it when you call. You're under no obligation, of course, to do any research for me. Yeah, it's funny the way little typos and slips of the tongue become something, right? When, years ago, before bulletin boards and social media and all that stuff, the social media of the day was the APA zine, right? The Amateur Press Associations, the many-to-manys, whatever other names they went by. And I was in one called Tap a Dance, and then later I ran one called Epidemic. But in Tap a Dance, one of the posters was writing something, and they were saying that they were getting a goldfish, and they accidentally typed it glodfish, transposed the L and the O, and everybody just ran with that for like months afterwards. There were glodfish jokes and stuff. So when you said Blackhawk, the thing I thought of then is that we need a Greymore, and that would be kind of cool, at least in my book. And as for everything else, thank you very much for doing all that research there for me.
Hey, Joe. Daniel Fernandez, keep calling in about your episode with Jason. Now I forget the name already. I'll look it up again. I was listening to it while I was walking. Yeah, I haven't picked it up yet, so I can't fully comment because I'm going to look through some of the sections you guys talked about. But I thought it was really interesting when you were talking about the magic, because, when we're making systems, right, new systems, I always find it super interesting as to where people put the crunch. Like, there are obviously, just super simple systems where there's no crunch at all, but most people put it somewhere, and it seems like that's the crunch in that system. Like, they must have really enjoyed some, magic and wanted to make it something that players could really dig into and play. But, of course, if you have players who don't want that crunch in that area, that can make the game more difficult or whatever for them. So it's just interesting to see that. Obviously, it seems like they didn't put it in the combat system. That seems really whatever. Oh, yeah, combat, who cares? But the magic system, they really cared about, so they took the time to make that really interesting. So I always find that stuff really, really fun. Seems like a pretty cool game overall. I'd definitely give it a shot. I love to just read different games and see how people organize their thoughts and put things together. But I have found that, and I mean, I've played a lot of games. I'm going to say upwards of 100 different systems, in the last 7 years. And I would say that 99% of the games just kind of play the same at the table. They really do. It comes down to how the players play, the DM plays. It just doesn't, I mean, a lot of times system doesn't really matter that much. It's nice to have certain rules, as Jason will certainly hear this call and say, for certain genres. That does make a difference. But, how you play, if you're really into crunchy magic or interesting magic, you'll learn it really well, so it will go fast and won't be crunchy. Same with combat. If you're not into those things, you won't learn it, and it will go slow and clunky. This is why when I run like more systems, people talk about like 5th edition, where people are like, oh yeah, combat takes 2 hours. I never had a 2-hour combat in 5th edition when I ran it. We ran high level. So it comes down to the players, the group, everything else. And these different games are just an awesome source of inspiration. Hopefully I won't get cut off. Great stuff as always. I'll talk to you soon.
Hey, Daniel, thank you for that. The name of the game that you were struggling to remember was Tunnel Quest. Yeah, thanks for your comments. I do like Tunnel Quest. Yeah, you were talking about, and that's interesting because it's something I never thought about. But you had said it's interesting to look at where people put the crunch. So first of all, I had a vision of the little old lady. I don't know if anyone's going to remember this. Years and years ago, there was a Wendy's commercial, and I had a little old lady, and she would say, "Where's the beef?" And so I was picturing her saying, "Where's the crunch?" But yeah, no, I never thought about that, and that's interesting. And what was particularly funny is, as I've said like a million times now, and I'm not trying to plug the game. It's what I've been working on, so it's on my mind the most. But this came in, after I did the bulk of the work on shirts and skirts. And I had a section in there that was very crunchy. And as you know, I am not a crunch guy, right? So later on, I'm like, no, there needs to be a simpler way. And I thought about it for a little bit and it came to me, bam. I'm like, duh, of course it should be that way anyway. And of course it was the system. I had to beep that out. Yeah, I know it's a fake beep because I said it in advance. But anyway, I can't say what it is because it will give away what Shirts and Skirts is about. But when we talk about the episode, when we do that episode, I will be able to say it and everyone will be like, well, of course, we've talked about that before. And you said stuff. So you being me. Anyway. Yeah, so that's interesting. And so after you said that, I even looked through Shirts and Skirts again to make sure there's no crunch anywhere. Well, a limited amount of crunch. But that has me wondering about Lucky 7. As for games playing the same at the table, yes and no. I will agree with you that, people will learn something and it will go quicker. But I would argue that even the same game played by different people can be very different. For example, GURPS. Using GURPS with every advanced rule versus using GURPS just the basic game can give you a very different feel at the table, right? And at one end of the spectrum, you're going to have a game experience that feels a lot like a tabletop miniatures war game. And at the other end, you're going to have an experience that feels very much like a narrative role-playing game without any tactical crunch. So, yay and nay. I agree with part of what you're saying. I also disagree with it, if that makes any sense. This might be a psychological thing because I was around, when AD&D was a thing, long before second edition, and things like GURPS and stuff were just coming onto the scene. Of course, Tunnels and Trolls had been out forever, and that first wave. But that second wave of games, the Silver Age, I guess we could say, if we say like D&D and TNT and all that are the Golden Age, the Silver Age stuff was just coming into play, and I think it really is a different feel. But all the hardcore D&D players, the Luddites, if you will, of that day were saying, well, game doesn't matter, you can play anything with anything, but you can't. You get different feels from different things. So now I'm going to disagree with you, but also I'm going to agree with you, because at the core of what you're saying, there is this nugget of truth. And anyone who knows this, well, any group that knows the system well enough, they're just going to go and they're going to go bang, 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 bang. So maybe you're right. It's not the system. It's no, because certain systems, back to your first point, certain systems put the crunch into certain places. And so it makes you focus on those things more. Yeah, I neither completely agree nor completely disagree with you. Anyway, you got me thinking, which means that's awesome feedback. Thank you very much, Daniel. Thanks a lot.
Hey, Joe. This is Michael, first-time caller. I've heard you mentioned on Jason's Nerds RPG Variety Cast podcast, as well as from Evil Jeff. And I'm really enjoying things so far. I really liked the Magical Thief class from OSR October. Thought that was really cool, and looking forward to looking into that some more as you continue to develop it. I was also listening to some of your back episodes and heard that you travel north to Niagara Falls for work. So I was just wondering if you are a fellow upstate New Yorker. I say upstate in front of New York because everyone assumes that you are from New York City when you say you're a New Yorker. So just curious about that. Thanks for the show. Really like it. And take care.
Hey, Michael. So first of all, everyone, Michael is a new caller, and he has a podcast, which he didn't say anything about. And when I looked, when he first left this feedback, I looked because it came in through Anchor, and he didn't have one up. So after he sent in this feedback, he has since released 3 episodes, and his podcast is called Merc the Meek, or Merca the Meek. I don't know if that is a modern English E at the end or an old English E. Yeah, I can't say it's a great podcast. I can't say it's a horrible podcast. I've never listened to it. I'm adding this to my subscribe list now. And I'll put a link in the show notes. So check out Merca the Meek. Hey, Michael, you're going to have to call in and tell me how you pronounce that. Oh, I bet you say it in one of your podcasts, actually. Oh, his disparate thoughts on disparate topics, but most likely gaming related. All right, it sounds cool. How long are the episodes? 5 minutes, 9 minutes, 18 minutes? Nice. I like nice short podcast. That's what this one was originally supposed to be. Yes, I'm going to give that. Listen, I'm excited about that. What else did you say? You said that you like the Magical Thief class. That's the most positive feedback I've gotten from it. I guess you and I are the only people that really like the idea. The upstate New York thing. Yeah. That's preach it, brother. Preach it. You tell people that you're from New York and they always say, oh, Manhattan or, the Bronx, whatever. I don't know. So Daniel, Bandits Keep, he's from that part of New York. And even though he's up in the mountains, he is close enough to have a studio in the city. So I don't know how that works. I know that they have trains and stuff down there. So I don't know if we can commute like that, or I don't know. But I even hesitate to say upstate New York, because technically speaking, the upstate region is like Albany and like Watertown, all that section. And this is Western New York. But then the people in Buffalo get testy if you say Western New York, because they say, we're Western New York and you're not. And so I guess technically speaking, I could say I'm the Finger Lakes region, but now no one outside of New York is going to know what that means. Where if I say Western New York, they're going to know what I mean. If I say Buffalo area, even though I'm like an hour away from Buffalo, they have an idea for that. If I say Rochester, they go, Minnesota? And so I am in Rochester, in New York, the birthplace of Kodak, the birthplace of Xerox, the birthplace of like French's mustard and a whole bunch of other stuff, Bird's Eye frozen foods, all started here. But yeah, it's one of those places that nobody knows. It's the home of the Strong Museum of Play, which has there's a D&D statue outside the museum now. It's awesome. Anyway, yeah, so I never know what to say. I still go with Western New York. If I'm talking to people not in the region, I say, yeah, I'm kind of near Buffalo. A couple years ago, my wife and I went to Alaska, like Anchorage, Fairbanks, all that fun stuff. And we were saying, oh, it's so gorgeous here. It's so beautiful here. It would be awesome to live here. And then we were like, oh, but can you imagine the snow? And so I whipped out my phone and I looked it up. And do you know that Rochester, Buffalo, and Watertown, we all get more snow than Anchorage, Alaska does. Actually, we even get more than Fairbanks does. Yeah, that just blew my mind. But the difference is that we get snow and then it melts and then we get more snow. Whereas in over there, it snows and it stays there, and then it snows again and it stays there. So I think by the end of the winter, they have a bigger snow pile than we do. Thanks for the call, Michael. And I'm going to listen to your podcast, and there's going to be links in the show notes. Thanks again.
Hello, Joe. This is Michael again. I guess a second-time caller now. Was just listening to another call-in episode, and you answered my question about being an upstate New Yorker. So there's that. Yeah, just really enjoying your discussion with your wife, Val. It is kind of interesting with wives and what they will tolerate or not tolerate. My wife loves board games and card games, but when it comes to RPG stuff, she just can't do it, which is odd. She loved drama in high school and college. She loves getting into role play and improvisation. For whatever reason, she just can't handle actually doing playing an RPG, even if I'm just doing all the rules for her. So yeah, it's weird, but we get along. We make it work. Take care.
Hi, Michael. Thank you for that call. I'm with my wife, Val.
Hi, how are you?
I also find it funny when people say, your wife Val, as opposed to one of my other wives.
You only have one. It's all you're allowed. Sorry.
Yeah, and so first of all, the upstate New York thing, I just recorded the whole upstate New York scree, if you will. If you remember, he says, you just answered my question about upstate New York. In his other feedback, he said, oh, you say you're from New York. I assume you being upstate because you said, and he then goes on that thing that everybody from up here always says about not New York City, right? You have to say upstate, otherwise.
I always say upstate because whenever I don't, people go, oh, you're from New York City. I'm like, no, that's about 5 hours away.
So the other thing he was talking about was wives and gaming, and that's why I thought I'd bring you back, because he was responding to our episode where he talked about it, and he said his wife likes to role play but doesn't like role play games. I'm not going to pry there, Michael.
Not gonna lie, I actually laughed out loud at that because I'm like, I also do not like RPGs, even though I also did musicals in high school and like theater and all that stuff and do karaoke but yeah, no, I have no desire to do.
I mean, not even high school, just 2 years ago, you were in HMS Pinafore, right?
Yes, but I don't do the lead roles. I just like to be in the chorus and be in the background.
So the other funny thing I thought he said was, we make it work, which just made me kind of chuckle, because I don't find it to be a very big barrier to a relationship.
Actually, I thought it was funnier that he said his wife tolerates it. I don't tolerate it. You do you. Have fun. I don't care that you game. It doesn't interfere with anything we do. You seem to like it, so whatever.
Yeah, so there's not really a whole much more to say about that, other than thanks for that call, Mike. And like I said, I'm going to check out your podcast. 3 episodes. Cool. All right, and thanks for joining me, Val.
Sure.
It's weird calling you Val.
It is.
I never have to call you by name because you're right there. And when I do call, I think about you as a Valerie more than Val.
Yeah, I do not prefer Val either, but everybody calls me that, so I'm just kind of used to it now.
All right. Anyway, thanks for joining me. And again, everyone else, thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, everyone. So that's it for this week. And, I'm sitting at about a half hour right now anyway. So once I trim off the dead air and repeats and stuff, it will be a good length for an episode. Last week's was very, very long. Yeah, so next week I will probably try to do that advantages, disadvantages, and I'll try to record that one while away again because I've talked about before how I have 2 jobs. And so 2 weekends ago, I was up at the other job. And then last weekend, I was in Rhode Island for the holiday. And then this weekend coming up, I'm back at Niagara Falls for that other job again. So that's 3 weekends in a row, not at the house. And yeah, but in the hotel room, maybe I will bring my mic up and I will record the advantages and disadvantages thing. Again, reminder, please send in your contest entry and tell me what Shirts and Skirts is about. And don't wait for all the clues. Just tell me now. And if you want to change your guest later, call in. That just sounds fun. Yeah, other than that, send feedback at decahedron.com. I'm going to stop listing all the methods because it's silly of me to say them all and then they're in the outro music. So they're there. They're in the show notes. Thanks again. I'd love to hear from you. Looking forward to it. Happy gaming. Happy life. Bye. You have been listening to the Decahedron RPG podcast. Send email to feedback@decahedron.com. Remember to spell decahedron with a K. Voice feedback can be sent through the Anchor website or by calling 562-RPG-CAST. That's 562-774-2278. Links are in the show notes. Music is by Kevin MacLeod and Alexander Nakarada. Logo is by Design Cat. Thanks for listening.